I think we, again, are very complex people, and we just have to give room for people to be who they want to be. Deeply, deeply, deeply know you are so loved.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Paul Tully with the FYI Podcast. Another great episode. I'm sitting in here with Santana Dempsey, actress, painter, writer, all-around incredible artist and human being. And we're going to talk a little bit about her life and her journey and what inspires her to do the things she does. Santana, how are you? Thanks for coming on the platform.
Of course. I'm really honored that you invited me. So thanks for having me.
We're going to jump into some cool stuff.
Okay.
I'm going to jump right into, we had a conversation. You were adopted as a child.
Yep.
Talk to me about that.
So I was actually adopted with my biological younger sister out of foster care. So I was in foster care for 3 years. And we were, it's kind of a tragic story, but we were taken away for child neglect when I was 3 and my younger sister was a year and a half. And, being taken away for child neglect at the time, I'm not going to tell you my age, but the time that I was born was very hard. They really believed in keeping the family together, which people still believe, but at the detriment sometimes to the children.
Yeah.
And at that time, meaning for us to be taken away, it was bad. And, they found me basically going to neighbors asking for food multiple times. So we were placed in a foster home. My biological father, he was Dominican. He and my birth mother was Caucasian. This all took place in Texas, in Dallas is where I was born. And he abandoned her when my younger sister was born. And she just didn't have the resources to take care of herself, let alone take care of us. So we were taken away, put into a foster home for 3 years. That wasn't really that much better.
What was the deal with her? Was she on drugs, alcohol?
Yeah, a lot of people, yeah. So she wasn't really a druggie or anything like that, but or had like mental health issues that we know of. None of that was ever stated. But she just was a poor white woman with that kept running away from her family and had no resources and was trying to survive and do the best she could. And we ended up being taken away from her. Her rights were stripped.
Wow.
She didn't show up for like the last court date, which you've got to show up. You want your kids, you got to show up. And about, I think a week later, we found out that she was committed suicide.
Oh.
So that's when we were put up for adoption.
Wow.
And what's weird is, I guess maybe 10 years ago, I found out that the first police report actually stated that my birth mom's, it was a homicide, not a suicide.
Oh, wow.
And that it was not her gun. She was at the home of an ex-cop of that town. It was his gun. There was a struggle. So I've been digging into that as an adult. I've been writing about it a little bit, trying to dig into it. So I still believe, suicide in the sense that maybe she didn't pull that trigger, but she put herself in harm's way and was not doing anything for herself to get better. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a way, I feel like she set herself up for a demise.
Wow.
So then we were put up for adoption. And, adopting 2 girls, at that point I was 6, my younger sister was 4, and we were brown in Missouri. Like, that's hard.
Yeah.
And they wanted to keep us together. Basically, DFS, Division of Family Services, they said that to separate us at that time would be too detrimental to our well-being. So we had to stay together.
But that's good. I mean,
it's amazing.
Yeah,
I don't.
Seems good.
Yes,
Okay.
I would not be able to be on this earth if my sister and I did not stay together.
Yeah.
And I say that wholeheartedly.
And who was the family that adopted you? Are you still close with them?
Yeah, my parents.
Oh, okay,
yes, I call them my parents.
Okay.
And yeah. I mean, I've versed people on adoption, but yet they are my parents. That's what I call them. Not my adopted parents. They are my parents. They're the only ones that I know.
Yeah.
And who have stayed and loved me. And I am the woman I am so much because of them. So they were a white couple in the Midwest near the Kansas City, Missouri area.
Yeah.
Lawyers, young lawyers, and they couldn't have kids. We were the first kids that they met.
Wow.
And we met in this park in Springfield, Missouri. And at that point, like, I was the type of little girl that had gone through so much. I basically was the provider for my younger sister. I was like the mom.
Yeah.
At a young age, and I had seen a lot. So I was really defiant, but I also knew how almost like the world works. Like, I knew people, you had to get people to like you. You know, like there was something about me in the foster home. And it was my skin and it was my curly hair that made me stand out.
Yeah.
And I knew that if there was a way for me to not be threatening to society.
Right.
This is as a little girl, to not be threatening and to move like the people that I saw, which was primarily white people, that I would belong, or at least I thought that. And so I just remember thinking in my head, like, when I met these people, I've got to do everything I can for them to like me. Because if they don't like me, they're not going to adopt us and we're not going to have parents. They're going to leave.
Yeah.
And that, has been something it's carried with me in my life, good and bad.
Through relationships and everything, I'm assuming.
Totally. Like maybe being more of a people pleaser, really caring if you like me.
Yeah.
Doing things that maybe aren't authentic to myself so that I can belong. Because having, your birth parents at such a young age not ultimately want you really does something to a child.
Yeah.
And that has stuck with me. But my parents are great. They, we met, we each had our own stuff where we were coming from. But they said yes. And so they adopted both myself and my sister. And we were a family from the beginning. There were issues, but it wasn't so much about them not loving us or us not loving them. It was more society. It was more being raised in a small town in Missouri with white parents and these like multiracial children. They are open to any kind of love and supportive of that, you know?
Yeah.
But it was
But you
hard.
guys got looked at a little bit.
Are you kidding? Of course.
Yeah.
Of course we did.
What was it like in school?
The first time that we went to a pool, and I think I was maybe like 8, and it was like all white kids or whatever. But again, we're half white. It's always when I say that I feel this disdain, but I also am like, but I'm brown. I am a brown woman. I want to own the brownness because white people, that they have the privilege. So I remember being at this pool with friends that I thought were friends. And I come inside to go to the bathroom and I hear the mom of the friends and the grandma. They were inside like doing something. And before I was opening the door, I hear the grandma say something to the effect of, so who's that little N-word girl swimming in our pool? She was talking about me. So I had heard the N-word before.
Wow.
In the foster home, I was called that.
Really?
So it wasn't the first time. And I didn't know, obviously, what it exactly was, but I knew that it was bad.
Yeah.
I knew that it was like ugly.
Yeah.
And that it was me. Wow. And that these people were saying this about me, and I did not want to be that. And it was associated with skin. I just remember skin and hair just was associated with that. So, I got out, I told my parents about it, and, they had conversations. So those kind of things happened a lot in, middle school, high school even. I was beat up by, it ended up turning on me by Black girls.
I was just going to say, I would imagine you don't get accepted enough either by people of color because you're too white looking.
Exactly. And then also, don't forget, during that time, there was no term of like Afro-Latino, you know, Afro-Latina, like how I do identify. And I mean, my birth father spoke Spanish, was from DR.
Yeah. And there's a whole thing between that too.
Totally.
Right? Because I know people that are Dominican and Puerto Rican that don't consider themselves Afro-Latino. But then I know a lot, especially younger generation, it's a big movement of like, I'm Afro-Latino.
Which is why I'm claiming it now.
Interesting.
I did not
claim
it. No. I claimed white. I was white.
Yeah, yeah.
What's on my birth certificate is white.
Yeah, yeah.
My birth mom was white. Birth father wasn't around.
Yeah.
I'm pretty, you know, white. I mean, my hair gives it away sometimes, but I'm not, you know, I am light-skinned. But I am of color.
Yeah, of course.
Depending on whose lens is looking at me, I can be many things. I can be Jewish, Sephardic Jew. I can be Filipina. I can be Puerto Rican.
It's hard for you to find the place.
Yeah. And the thing is, when you are multiracial, there isn't a place. I can be and move within many different worlds.
Yeah.
It's one of my superpowers. But it also does make me feel, not anymore, I've really accepted it, but growing up as an outsider. And in a small town where, again, there was no Latinx, as we said now, or Latino. It was, we had a Mexican restaurant. No, a Mexican restaurant. There were one restaurant, but there were no kids growing up that were Mexican.
Wow.
There was nothing. It was Black people, white people, one Asian family, and then one Indian family, India.
That's
then my sister and I.
Yeah, it's not like New York.
No.
Yeah.
And I wish it was. That's the one thing. Two things my parents regret. Their number one is that they didn't put our family through therapy, which was offered to them when we were first adopted, but they didn't want to accept any kind of financial aid or help from the state. They wanted us to look like a family. Right. But they will sit here today and tell you that, you know, they should have done that. And two, they wouldn't say this, I would say this. I wish we were raised in more of an urban, diverse environment.
Yeah.
And they chose a smaller town because they thought that it would have a community that we could help each other, you know?
Yeah.
And for me, like, I never felt like I fit. Like, I graduated high school early and I studied abroad in Argentina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
nice.
You know, I wanted to learn Spanish. I wanted to, like, even though Argentina's not my roots, but I wanted somewhere. So I left and then studied there and went to college. And then right after college, like 3 days, I moved to New York City by myself.
Nice.
Because I was like, I need to find like my people. And I felt like it had the most Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. And just as a side note, I didn't find out that I was Dominican until 5 years ago.
Wow.
We didn't know the ethnicity of my birth father. We knew that he was Spanish speaking. We knew that he was brown. That was it. And that he's not from this country.
Yeah.
So I always thought it was Puerto Rico.
What was Argentina like?
Amazing. I mean,
a lot of Italians went down to Argentina after World War II.
Yep. 100%. You're so smart. Yep. And I think Argentina considers themselves better than most Latin American countries.
Yeah.
Because of the Italian. Their Spanish is different. It has that Italian, like their roots are from there.
Culture?
Yeah, their culture, the roots, but the way their Spanish is. So they use vos, not ustedes.
Yeah.
They say like, instead of playa, they say playa.
Yeah, of course.
Ella is ella.
Well, I mean, Spanish is derived off Latin, which is from Rome. So.
Exactly. For myself, I was so worried about how others would view me and say that I'm not enough because my experience was so different. Even though I am a brown woman in this world, I always wanted to be sure that I was accepted and right and okay. And I think now people are going, okay, but there is a way to be all of the things.
Yeah.
Because, the Latino community are mixed themselves.
For sure, yeah.
And it gets really complex.
Yeah.
You know, and so and also culturally. Yeah. Someone from Mexico has a very different identity than Argentina.
For sure, yeah.
Or Venezuela.
Yeah.
You know, so we're talking like ethnicity, race, and then cultural things.
Yeah.
And environment. And I just now feel like once we can give ourselves permission to just be and also be who we want to be.
Yeah.
I get to choose.
Yeah.
You get to choose. I mean, I get to choose a little more. Today, I want to be a little more, spicy Dominican. I can, you know? But I just think that if we give people permission to be, things fall into place a little more. And I think the kids, I say kids, like the teens, what are those? Are they the
I think Gen Zers.
Gen Z, okay, millennial. The Gen Zs, I think
they're killing it right now. They're controlling social media.
And they're okay with people using, again, the Afro-Latino or, again, even multiracial. That wasn't something when I grew up. I knew I was mixed, but I didn't exactly know what that meant. Yeah. You had to pick. You had to either be black or white. And again, even like the Asians, the one Asian family, black or white. There was no anything else. Yeah. Today, we have created, there's so much more vastness in between these two.
Yeah.
And that's also caused problems. But at the same time, I think we, again, are very complex people. And we just have to give room for people to be who they want to be.
Yeah.
In all things. I don't just mean how they identify as, I mean sexually, I mean politically, I mean racially, culturally.
Yeah.
After we were adopted, we went into, so the foster home, they were uber Southern Baptist.
Oh,
but
wow.
Meaning like, there was no girls couldn't wear shorts. We had to wear everything had to be below the knee.
Below the knee.
Yeah, we called them culottes. I remember I wore
interesting
things like church. You're like kneeling the whole time. There's all the things. So my parents, the reason why, so we went to private Lutheran school from kindergarten to 5th grade. Right. Why? 2 reasons, my parents would say, because I didn't have a choice, was because they didn't want to, when we were first adopted, like my parents, they drank, not like a lot, but like my dad would have a beer, my mom would have a glass of wine. That was of the devil. That's what I learned.
From the back, from church. Yeah,
yes. So the first time, and then music, dancing, that was not music, that was God music.
Right.
Jesus music. Right. I don't think that's like the right term, so sorry anyway.
We're going to hashtag that.
God music, Jesus music.
Jesus music.
So when we saw our parents for the first time, and they were like hippies and stuff, and they loved like rock and roll music and like
my
the
mom,
Beatles and like that. Yeah, Bob Marley. And so they would have this stuff playing. And no joke, I walked in and I put my hands over my eyes. I point to them and go, devil, sinners, yeah, going to hell, and like drop down and like pray for them. And that was, but again, so they
it's
thought.
What you were taught, yeah.
Yes, but they thought, because like our kids were in such a religious environment, we didn't want to put them in public school, but they also felt like they had a daycare. After they had they school that went till 5 because my parents both worked and were attorneys, but we did until 5th grade. I was in private Lutheran school.
Yeah.
And it was, again, structure wise. But when my family and I talk about politics now, religion isn't normally in the conversation. Mm-hmm. But I did not grow up, just going back to what you said, with you put God first, then you put
that's
America,
a military.
And
that's
then
a military.
Family, right? Is that the hierarchy?
That's a military thing. I don't think
okay.
most families. What I'm saying is the reason the military does that. I'm saying I'm not saying that's how I live my life. But when you're active duty, that is definitely your core, because what it is God, country, family.
But what about if you don't believe in God? Or do you have to believe in God to go to the military?
Well, I think even if you don't believe in God, I would imagine it would be you believe in something greater than yourself.
Okay.
I could be wrong, so vets don't kill me if I'm wrong. I think, because I've always been a God believer, but that's a great question. I would imagine what it is when you fight for a greater cause, that's all really a greater cause than heroism. When you're going to put your life on the line and take a bullet to die for somebody.
I would only do that for my sister.
So that's what I'm saying. But when you join the military, you can't, right? You have to reprogram. That kind of thinking can't exist. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a fighting force. So let's talk about where we're going now. So you're in LA, you're acting, you're writing, painting.
I lived in New York for about 8 years, and then I've been out here for a chunk of time for about 10 or so. So my entire adult life, I've only lived in New York and LA. So I got out of the Midwest as soon as I could. And I'm acting, hustling like many of us. And I'm kind of at this point where I think, the pandemic really shifted me. I got stuck in Spain.
Oh, wow.
So I really was struggling in 2019. I'd found out that's when I had a biological half brother. That's when I found out who my birth father was, that he's still alive, that I'm Dominican.
Oh, wow.
And when I found that out, it's like all of the pain from when I was a little girl came flooding back, because at least my birth mom was dead. She couldn't come back and claim me.
Yeah.
Yeah. My birth father has been around, is here now.
Knows who you are.
I don't know if he knows me, but I mean, I'm not dead, but he knows of me. I was born. He knows, I didn't know that. We were told, he was a bad guy. The FBI apparently came looking for him right before I was adopted for selling illegal guns and drugs in the U.S.
Oh, wow.
So he's not a great person, and he's involved in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So we were told kind of to stay as far away as we could. And I've just never really looked back, besides identity stuff and just wanting to know where I came from, to have something.
Yeah.
So to find out that he was alive, it made me feel like that original wound, that abandonment wound of I did something wrong. I wasn't good enough for you to stay.
Yeah.
Just flooded me.
Oh.
Way more than I can give you right now. But I needed to get out. And so I decided what's something that I haven't been doing. And I love traveling. I've traveled all over the world. I solo travel. And like I said, study abroad I did 2 study abroads, 16 and then high school. And then I backpacked through Europe by myself for 3 months. And then every couple of years I'd go to a different country by myself. I lived in Mexico for 3 months. And I hadn't done that. And I love people, and I love different cultures and learning. So I was like, let me go write a book. I've been so close with my acting career to things, but I've been pigeonholed as, which is funny I'm using pigeonhole, but pigeonholed as a character actor. And I'm not really a character actor. To me, I am an actor.
Yeah.
But I get pigeonholed as that because I am hard to categorize. I'm hard to box. But what I have learned, and I tell people when I go back to my old college, or I speak at different acting schools, I say it is okay actually to have to be typecast at the beginning.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's your in, and then you get to explore. Where I always was I'm not going to be boxed ever, with anything.
Yeah.
And I wasn't. And people didn't even know how to box me. And it's actually been a detriment. It's if you were to look at my reel, there's not one thing that I've played that is the same. You wouldn't even know that character is this, that actor is the same actor as this.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And I've got a great range. But if you are we're talking the business of acting.
What they're looking for.
And they're here's Santana Dempsey trying to play this FBI, but we've seen her play this nerdy character. And then we've seen her play this, prostitute, or this high-end attorney, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Are we going to believe that? But that has been a hurdle.
Yeah, because they don't want to work that hard anyways in casting.
No, and again, I love casting directors very much. And a lot are big fans, and they do really, the good ones really do try to branch out, but they have so much on their plate of trying to please their producers, to give them what they want.
Yeah.
And they're seeing so many people, and it's so hard already that I think sometimes I'm not boxed enough now, which is so weird. I don't think I've ever said that. And I kind of would like to be. But again, I've been in it too long now that I'm not boxed. So I will keep on keeping on. But I do think my potential hasn't been met, and it's something that I struggle with. So I wanted to go in 2019 to write. I've written a couple short stories. I wrote a one-woman show, and I was let me write a book. And then this book I want to sell to be made into a TV show and open myself up. But then it was the pandemic. I went March or end of February of 2020.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I've already made this. I got 3 months off. My job is sabbatical. Boom. I got, to Brazil. I went to Spain and I got to Barcelona. And then I went to this small town on the coast, about an hour and a half north of Valencia called Tarragona. And I was there not even 2 weeks and we got shut down, and then to get me back, it was basically $10,000 for a one-way ticket 2 months later that I had to hide in a backseat because it was illegal to ride in a car with another person. There was no public transportation. You could not do that. So I had to hire a car service and I had to go then to Germany and Frankfurt, stay there for over 36 hours and then fly to Chicago. There was no one way. There was no direct flights back. So that was very traumatic and I was already dealing with trauma. And so I crashed. So 2019, 2020, 2021, I burned. We just talked about burning. Wow. And I guess now I just kept leaving LA and trying to find my way. And I came back in 2022 and I just said, I want to do it differently this time. I was living in West Hollywood as well. Now I live in Pasadena. So, and I also got rid of a lot of, friends or friends that I thought were friends and toxicity. And I was really doing the Hollywood thing. But, that is a bubble and it's very toxic. It is the most...
a waste of your time and life and energy.
It is. And I was, again, trying to be who I thought everyone wanted me to be. And I killed myself. And so coming back, it's been where I'm at now is just showing up for myself, being me authentically and trying to do good work. And I know you are one of them. I know the people who are supposed to see me will see me.
Yeah.
And I'm just, I think we all privately are dealing with many things. I am still. But I really am trying to also give myself some grace, because I feel like I try to think of myself at 6 years old and never would I imagine I would be sitting here like this today.
Yeah.
And I'm getting emotional having this kind of conversation. You know what I mean? And I'm proud of that little girl. And so if I'm proud of that little girl, I have to say to myself, I'm proud of me, because I am pretty hard on myself. So that's where I'm at right now. And I'm painting. I paint during the pandemic. That was something I painted when I was in New York and in college. And it was the one thing I wanted to pick back up and do things that filled my heart.
Yeah.
And so I've had an art show and I've sold many things. And so that's been, and still writing and still auditioning. And I still have a light that I know because I'm crazy. And I think to be an artist, you have to be a little crazy.
Yeah.
Even though I've sacrificed truly my entire adult life for this career and it has not loved me the way that I have loved it, truly, I still believe it will love me and it will come to me. And I don't know why, but I just know it.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, goodness.
I'm proud of that little girl. I see you.
Oh,
I can't wait to work with you. And
I'm all emotional.
You know what? I think that the career is already giving you stuff to love. And you know what that is?
What?
It's your growth. I think that's what us as artists have to see. Us as anything, not just artists, but I'm going to speak on artists because this industry it's brutal, man, because we come into it with an idea of what our dream is. And I think a lot of that, for me anyways, I don't know about for anybody else, but looking at for me, when I came into the arts, I was 30 and I came in late and I already had a whole nother experiences in life, from street life to legal problems to drug addictions to sobriety to military, war, a young father. I had all these real life experiences. And I had an idea when I got into this that I want to make people, my family, proud. I wanted people that I grew up with to be like, yo, Paul's a star. And all most of those reasons, aside from you wanting your family to be proud and stuff,
Yeah.
most of my reasons were narcissistic reasons. And once I realized that like this isn't about being famous, and if you get fame,
Great.
great,
Right.
and you may hate it because
Yeah.
some of the artists we know, I mean, on the
No, I know. I'm
big
friends
level,
with
right?
it's
A lot of them are like,
yeah.
they like, I mean, so what I am saying is if the fame and the money and the big projects, more important than fame, the phone calls come where I'm directing or I'm acting in $150 million budget Netflix shows. If all that happens, great. But where I'm at today is, this is what I'm trying to say, why I say maybe the career is already loving us and we're just not seeing. It's kind of like when someone really likes you and they're really into you and you're like, you don't see it because you're looking for different things and you're kind of like not seeing what they're willing to do for you and give you. And that doesn't make you wrong. It just means like you're kind of looking for something else. But what if you've seen it? Maybe our industry's already given it. You know what it is? It's giving us the craft. And if we're truly craftsmen and women, we're getting better, which if you look back to 2016, 15, 18, 19 to now,
I'm like,
and then
so
where you're going to be
different.
in 6 months, and then in 2 years, I know I'm much better.
Yeah,
I
me
know
too.
for a fact I'm so much better than 5 years ago, 3 years, than a year ago. We just keep getting better. That is the gift. So if we see that and go, dude, it's not about booking those are accolades of the gift. If we're truly artists, it's about getting better and evoking thought in people and emotion. That's what we all said we really wanted.
Yeah,
so I just
that's
remind
true.
myself of that, Santana.
I like that.
You know what, Paul, you are, dude. Because I can look at friends and be like, shh, they're blowing up. They got money. And I'm like, my mom passed away recently and she was so proud of me. Like, what more gift can God give me, life give me, the industry give me? She was so proud. Not because I made a movie. She was proud because I didn't stop doing what I loved.
And you just didn't stop.
I didn't stop. There is no stop. There's no destination. So I think it's important that we remind each other as a community of artists, friends, or remind ourselves.
Okay. Because I
that
think the struggle, at least for me, I think when the struggle gets in there, it's hard to see that light that you're talking about, you know?
For sure.
And with the world,
The
at least for me,
business.
that we are, the business and the world that we have talked mostly about on this podcast, that as well. You know, it's there's a lot of hard, and I think, and I am at fault of this too. I try. But when things are so hard or you are just constantly, like sometimes I feel like I'm constantly surviving, that then you're right, the ego does take over more because that's actually easier than feeling and knowing what you really want. And I have always wanted to affect people.
Yeah. Whether
and
it's one
inspire
person
and-
or 10.
yeah.
The rest is just ego. Okay, Santana, what I like to do when I close these out,
What?
I like to ask
Am I
my
like-
guest
Okay. I'm
to
like,
look at that camera, which
Okay.
is your camera.
yes.
And for anybody watching that any of your story resonated with and that's struggling, then that's feels in the darkness, what advice would you have for them to navigate their way?
To know that you are enough, that you are so worthy of love, support, and to be cared for. And I would also say to remind yourself of your little girl, your little boy, your little self, and to talk to them and to protect them, to move as if you were their big brother or sister in the world. But ultimately, deeply, deeply, deeply know you are so loved.
I love that. Santana, thank you for
You
coming
are
on the
welcome.
platform.
I'm like all emotional again.
I'm going to close this out real quick. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning into another episode of FYI. Santana shared so many gems in this interview. I got so much from it. One of the top things I'm going to say is sitting down with Santana, talking about just putting good in the world. We are obviously two individuals that have a lot in common and so much that's not in common. And we were able to sit here and have a conversation and get emotional. And I feel 10 times closer to her than I was when she walked in. That's what it's about, guys. It's about sitting down and talking. If you're truly a good person and you truly care about the world and your neighbor, that's all it takes, man. It's just simple. It's love. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. You have to have the same faiths and the same ideologies. No, it does not. It means that we're basically here trying to make the world a better place and love each other in a safe place. So let's put a little more of that in the world. Santana talked about so many different obstacles. I mean, look at the things this young lady had to face in her life as a child. The loss of a biological mother, a biological father that hasn't been in her life, that's still alive today. It's still an ongoing thing that hits her in her heart. But she also got the love of two parents that loved her, didn't judge her, and raised her. She got to have a bond, her and her sister and her parents. She grew up in an environment that was hard, that didn't see her the same as other people. But you know what? She still pushed through. She grew up. We didn't talk too much about all the goods in that community. I'm sure there were a lot of good and a lot of good people. So I think let's think a little bit more how we carry ourselves, how we talk. And that goes on both sides. You know, we don't have to run around and be censorship kings. You know, let's learn to just communicate. Another thing I took from Santana, she's a traveler. She's a world traveler. She's a true artist. I mean, I admire her fortitude to travel around, backpack through Europe, live in other places, live in Mexico, you know, just going and doing it, man. Just doing it, seeing the world, getting to know other people. That's what this is all about, guys. So I took a lot of things. I'm grateful Santana was here, and I'm grateful for you for watching. Tune into the next episode, FYI.
You should never stress about the problems you be facing. Everybody in the mud on the struggle trying to make it. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration. I'm finding inspiration, and once I get a hold of it, I'll never get complacent. Look into the mirror and you see the motivation. Then you step into the world and you find your inspiration.